Check, 1 2 1 2 1 2. Monday motivation. Oh baby, oh baby. I ran my goal this morning, and it was a power run, man. I really feel good about it, and I'm definitely gonna do better than I did yesterday. Definitely gonna do better than I did yesterday. So today's producer motivation is pretty heavy, bro. It's pretty heavy. I want to encourage you guys to work at your DAW. Sit down with the purpose of getting up and doing something active. And that sounds distracted, but it's really not. It's really purposeful. Sit down to work on a project with the intent to get up soon. Finish the project. Get up and get started doing what you really need to do after you get done working. Okay? So the title for today's producer motivation is make sure that your input is less than your output, and make sure your output is more than your input. So now, what does that mean? Yesterday was, are you getting fat? Mentally, taking in ideas, not finishing. Today is, make sure that what you're taking in is a good amount, but make sure your output and what you're exerting is more than what you're eating. Now, you might say, oh, brother, how can I put out more than I'm taking in? Oh, but the body is a beautiful design, baby boy, baby girl. God had a purpose in mind when he made this machine. Okay, so this is what I want you to understand today. I want you to understand that your body has a certain amount of time that it can run before it's replenished, right? So get that through your head. Even mentally, your brain says, I'm hungry, I'm hungry, I'm hungry, I'm hungry, I'm hungry. Feed me, feed me, feed me, feed me, feed me. I'm not saying deprive yourself. I'm saying know your limits. Study yourself. Study what the body can do and do it. Know your limits. What does that mean, bro? Love? What does know my limits mean? You know how much it takes for you to sit down at the plate and eat 1 plate, and eat 2 plates, and eat 3 plates. Some of us can eat 4, 5, 6 plates. Americans, come on. What are we doing? You know your limit. You know when your stomach is saying, oh, blah, blah, blah. If we know our fat limit, why don't we know our output limit? If we know what our intake is, why can't we exert and push for that output limit, that exceedingly great limit? Why are we limiting our output and we're putting no limits on our input, our intake? So I want to encourage you today, as a producer, okay, make sure it's story time. It's story time. It's story time. So a younger brother, right, was sitting at home working on the DAW on the desktop. So the desktop is rocking. The desktop is rocking. It's rocking. So brother saw one of his favorite MC/producers, Big Boy from the group AKAI, on a picture in a, I'm gonna say a rap magazine. It was a few of them I was reading at the time. I was reading Scratch, which those brothers, man, I wish they kept doing it. And then they're on YouTube now though. Scratch magazine, Source magazine, is one of those. XXL really didn't care too much for their writing. They had great pictures, but the Source's writers, man, they was off the chain. Anyways, that's a side note. So I see this picture of Big Boy. He's advertising something. I don't even remember what the advertisement was about, but in the corner of the picture, there was a MIDI controller and a laptop. And a light bulb went off in my head. It was like, ding. I'm like, is Big Boy making beats on a laptop? And this was 2004, 2005, something like that. Big Boy making beats on a laptop? I gotta get a laptop. So I hustle, because I didn't have the money at the time to just go and get a laptop. Hustle, grind. Got the laptop. So I'm like, okay, if I can load Windows, or I can load my DAW onto Windows with my desktop, the same Windows is on this laptop. So I put the disk in, run it up. Here we go, Cubase up and running. I said, what? That's pretty dope. So then I'm like, okay, let me try to hook up a keyboard to this joint. So I get all my software stuff, and I was using a workstation at the time. I plugged the workstation in. Workstation worked. I'm like, let me go and grab an external sound card. So I'm doing research, because I had the lag, right? So I'm doing all this research. And I figure out how to get rid of the lag, or what we call in production latency. I got rid of the latency, so I got a laptop with no latency. So then I'm grinding, and I've synced up my workstation to my laptop. So I have this certain amount of input, and I have a certain amount of output, right? So I put all this grind in. Guess what happens after that? My output goes skyrocketing. I'm making beats at home. I'm making beats at work. I'm making beats in public. I'm making beats everywhere on this laptop. Beats. Beats. You might as well call me Joseph Beats. Shout out to J Beats on LA Symphony. You might as well call me Joseph Beats, and my output was like boom. Start spitting out beats. I'm selling beats. Cats in Chicago, selling beats. Cats in OKC. I'm selling beats all over Houston. Selling beats online. Shout out to my man's who am I shout out? Shout out to my man's BL, James Perry, who put me up on mp3.com when it was open source. Anyways, to make a short story long, my output became so great that the money that I put into buying this laptop and the research that I was doing became minuscule to the beat production that I was able to achieve. So what am I saying to you this morning? I'm saying make sure that your output is more, heavier. Make sure that your positivity is heavier than the negativity around you and the negative people. Make sure that your work source, whether it be your computer or whatever, make sure you're not spending hundreds of thousands of dollars on equipment, but you're not putting in the time that it takes to make sure your output is going to cover the cost of making sure that you repay yourself for that equipment. What's the use of paying $100,000 for equipment if you're not going to make $500,000 in profits? How does that make sense? How does it make sense buying $500,000 worth of equipment and only selling $90 worth of beats? How does that make sense? Make sure that your output, is more than your input. Now, when you reverse that, your output becomes your input to the industry. Your output becomes your input to the game. Your output becomes the input to life. And what you're putting in, guess what the universe is going to do? Guess what God is going to do? God says you reap what you sow, right? The universe says karma. What you do going to come right back around and bust you upside your head like a boomerang. So be ready for what you're putting out to come back and either bless you, and hopefully you're not a person that curses. Come on, somebody. Hey, producer motivation. I need to go on the second half of my run. I'll take a break so I can encourage you guys. Just for the simple fact that you guys are following me. And these days, man, I think that the CDC is profiting a lot off of what we eat. Not only the CDC, but there's a lot of industries that profit off of our sickness, our mental sickness, our physical sickness, and all of these things that come along with an unhealthy lifestyle, whether it's mentally. A lot of people are dealing with depression and other mental illnesses. A lot of people are dealing with cancer, hypertension, blood diseases like diabetes and things of the sort. So basically, I gotta beat this traffic. Got him. So basically, I want to encourage you guys to be healthy physically and be healthy mentally, so you're not a casualty to the game. Make sure your output is you putting in, man. Put in your work, put in your dues, pay your dues. One thing I learned from the producers that came before me, the dope ones like Pete Rock, Premier, Kanye, RZA, Timbo, Dre, all these guys, they say you gotta pay your dues. They gotta pay your dues. You gotta pay your dues. You can't pay dues without putting in work, baby. You gotta make sure your output, what you putting in the game, is gonna come back. Because if what you're doing is minuscule, you can't expect to get out more than what you're putting in. You gotta make sure your output is more than your input. Because if you trick yourself to think that a low output is gonna give you a big increase, it's not gonna happen. You gotta be encouraged to know that you can do it. You can take the output that you put in and flip it like Gucci Mane said. You take the bag and fumble it. I take the bag and tumble it. You gotta make sure your output is gonna do what it needs to do. You gotta make sure that your output is gonna serve you. You gotta make sure that your output is gonna bang for you. Being active now is gonna make sure that you're still able to be active in your latter years. Your output has to be more, greater. You gotta hit it with that grizzly grind, baby. It's Monday morning. This is gonna set the tone for the rest of the work week. What's your Monday morning output? Monday mornings are the most death-filled day. The hours before people return to work. It's the highest time that people have stress attacks. Woo. People have heart attacks and the like. Make sure that your output is more than your input. What does that mean? It means some mental work has to be done. People are unwilling to do. Sit down and deal. Look at the facts. If I eat 10 bowls of Captain Crunch in the morning, I have a snack, I have a big, huge gourmet lunch, and I have 3 snacks before my 7-course dinner. And I go to the gym and I run 1 lap. What's my input? 6 gajillion calories and fat rolls. Blah, blah, blah. What's my output? 1 funky lap. And I'm not down in the lap, but let that lap be a goal on the first day. Next day, do 2 laps. Next day, do 4 laps. Next day, do 8 laps. Next day, do 16 laps. Increase that output. Because if you continue eating a gajillion calories and thinking that 1 lap is gonna do some damage, that's like the guy that goes to Burger King and orders numbers 1 through 8, eats them all with a freaking Diet Coke. Come on, What's that Diet Coke gonna do? Nathaniel, nothing. Nathan, Rugu, goose egg, zip, zilch, nada. But I want to encourage you to sit down and say, okay, this is my input. How am I gonna flip this ratio? Make sure that your output exceeds your input. You're doing 24 laps, and you're drinking water, and you're only taking in the necessary things that you need, and a little bit of things that you love, you're gonna come out on the right side. It's Brother Monday morning, producer, motivation. I'm over the hump of my run. Let's go.